Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be covering 5 tips to make it easy to build hard habits and to make them more sustainable so you can stick to them in the long term. The first tip that we're going to be going over is to start slow. Now, for a lot of people, they tend to really rush into, habits when they're first starting them. So let's say, for example, that you want to lose 20 pounds. A lot of people who want to lose weight, instead of, going to the gym at first, once a week, and then after a couple weeks going twice a week, then after a little bit going 3 times a week, and gradually reducing their food intake, what most people do is they'll kind of start going to the gym 6 days a week. They'll be eating extremely small amounts of food, and initially they'll see lots of progress, but by about week 3 or week 4, they'll burn out and they'll completely stop and they'll go right back to the way that they used to do things. And they'll end up kind of right back at the same spot that they started. So kind of why does this happen? Why is it so tempting for us to go all in and to go extreme with these habits in the beginning? And then why does it not end up working? And then the other thing we kind of have to address is why is going slow so hard sometimes? And why is it more sustainable in the long run though? And a good kind of way to think about this is sprinting versus jogging. If I told you that right now you had to go, your absolute max speed top sprint for 5 miles straight, that would be insanely hard to do. But if I told you you had to jog those 5 miles, that would be much more manageable. But now if we actually watch people, let's say we had 2 people who are racing, and one is going to sprint the whole way, 5 miles, and then one person is going to jog for 5 miles. If we watched both of those people, the person who is sprinting is going to destroy the person who is jogging in the first few minutes. They're going to be much farther ahead. And they're going to be seeming to do really well, in the first 4 minutes or so, it'll seem like the person who's sprinting is definitely going to win that 5-mile race. But again, that person who's going their top full sprint is not going to be able to hold that pace for longer than a couple of minutes, and they'll get really tired, they'll burn out, and then they'll dramatically slow down, which is where the person who is jogging will be able to make up for that lost time, maintain that steady pace, and then make it to the end without any kind of hassle. And this is kind of the same thing that we see in real life, is the people who start habits slowly see almost no results initially. They're far behind the people who rush into their habits. If you start going to the gym 6 days a week and barely eating any food, you're going to lose a lot of weight really quickly. And seeing that result and seeing yourself get closer to your end goal is extremely motivating. But the problem is again, that pace is not sustainable. You can't be on a full sprint 24/7. You need to jog, you need to pace yourself. And that's why in the end, people who go, kind of extreme, they'll burn out really quick, they won't be able to follow the habit, and they'll kind of end up right back where they started. Whereas the person who starts slow and steady will be able to kind of follow through and reach their goal by the end. And the biggest kind of reason that this happens is very simple. It's that people are focused on the end goal. So if you want to lose 20 pounds, the biggest thing you want is to lose that 20 pounds. But instead of focusing on losing that 20 pounds, just focus on kind of doing the things that you need to do to lose 20 pounds eventually. And that's kind of what starting slow is all about. Don't focus on the goal at all, for several months. Don't even think about the goal. Just focus on building the habits that you'll need to do to get there. A success, so again, let's kind of return to this losing 20 pounds example. In this example, what you want to do is don't measure success by whether or not you've lost 20 pounds. Because let's say it takes you 6 months to lose 20 pounds, which is a pretty, reasonable estimate. For 6 months, every single day you are going to be failing. If your measure of success is to lose 20 pounds, every day you will fail for 6 months. Why? Because you aren't going to lose 20 pounds until, let's say, that 6-month mark, or that 3-month mark. You're going to fail every single day until you actually lose those 20 pounds, if your measure of success is losing 20 pounds. So you kind of might say, how about I break the goal up? And I try and lose 4 pounds first, then I lose 8 pounds, and then, you slowly build up to that goal. This is, a better approach, but again, this is still problematic because let's say you only want to lose 4 pounds and you give yourself a month to do so. For a month straight, you are failing. And things like weight fluctuations, life will get in the way, and all these kind of things can be very demotivating. But what's much easier to do is not to focus on losing 20 pounds, but just on hitting a certain calorie count every day, or eating certain foods, or avoiding certain foods every day. For me, when it came to weight loss, instead of focusing on the number of pounds that I was gaining or losing, all I focused on was the food that I ate that day. That's all you have to do. When in your metric for success, instead of being, I need to lose 20 pounds, becomes I need to eat healthy today. That's something you can control. And that's something that makes it a lot easier. You kind of want to forget about that long-term goal because you're not going to get there for a long time. What will actually get you there is these small changes that happen day in and day out. It's again kind of like jogging. Jogging isn't about kind of getting to that 5 mile mark. It's just about maintaining a solid, steady, easy pace. And then the 5 mile mark kind of crosses you and hits you before you even know it. That's the same kind of approach you want to have when it comes to doing kind of these long-term habits. Take it slow and steady, forget about the habit, and you'll hit it before you even know it. Let's move into the next tip, which is making the habit fun. Now, I want you to think about something that you love doing, a favorite hobby of yours. And I want you to think about how often do you find yourself asking, or wishing that you had more time to do that thing. Now, imagine if you felt this way about the habit that you want to form. Now, for me, I love video games. I love playing those video games, and I always wish that I had more time to do so. So imagine if I felt that way about something like studying or about doing work. And now, while this might seem kind of impossible, and it kind of is, a lot of these habits, like studying, working out, things that are kind of unpleasant, it's difficult to make them as fun as these like super rewarding activities like video games or, watching TV, stuff like that. But you can take steps to kind of make your habits more enjoyable so it's easier to do that. Because when something is fun to do, productivity and productivity tips kind of go out the window. You don't need someone to tell you how to watch your favorite TV show. You don't need to do a ton of productivity hacks to do something you really enjoy. You just do it, you make the time, and you have a lot of fun doing it. So if you can kind of make your habits that you want to do more fun, that's going to make it way easier to stick to them, and it'll give you greater results in the long term. So how do we make habits more fun? It's kind of hard to apply general principles to all habits, but I'll kind of give you some examples from my life and some personal kind of things that I do. So one of the biggest things for me is location. So if you want to, let's say we're looking at like working out. If you really want to exercise, try and pick a gym or pick a location that you really like. So for me, I really wanted to get into running, so I don't go and just run anywhere. I have, a couple of trails that I really love going on already. I love taking walks there, beautiful scenery, all this kind of stuff. I go to those trails whenever I want to run, and that has made running something I really look forward to. I really like doing that kind of stuff. Same thing with studying. If I want to study, I'll go to places I really enjoy. My room behind me, you can see, is decorated and it's really pleasant and nice. So I really like doing work in here, and I'll kind of make it a priority to do work just because I like being in here and being productive. I love going to the library, so I'll prioritize and make time to go to the library to do my work because I love being there and I know that I'm going to get more work done. Like doing work kind of becomes a treat because it means I get to go to the library. Another thing is kind of pairing an activity or, just kind of doing something else while you do your activity that's inherently enjoyable to you already. So if we kind of return to that studying example, for me, when I study, I listen to this lo-fi playlist that I really, really like, and I can't really just listen to lo-fi music ordinarily while I'm doing nothing. So I kind of have one specific one that I listen to for studying, and it's really nice, gets me in the zone, and it makes it a lot more enjoyable. And I'll also kind of have like a beverage while I'm studying or doing work, like instant hot cocoa or something like that, some decaf coffee. that makes it way more fun to study because I like having these drinks and I like kind of sipping on something while I'm working. So those are kind of, that's another strategy. Pair something you like with the thing that you want to do more. And then the last kind of part of making it fun, which ties into our next section as well, which is to personalize the habit, is to make the habit your own. So when it comes to things like, kind of exercising or eating healthy, a lot of people have very rigid requirements of what they should do. Like eating healthy means eating these only whole foods, eating only no carb foods, eating no bread, eating no this, no that. That is a bad way to go about things. Everyone is different. So find what you like to eat, and eat that. Like, eat healthy foods you enjoy. So I hate most vegetables, so I don't eat vegetables that often. I'll only eat things like lettuce, occasionally like celery, maybe something like that. And like tomatoes or spinach, something like in a sandwich, that's all I'm really gonna eat. But I love fruits, so every single day I'll have 3 servings of fruits. Like I love having bananas, watermelons, oranges, mangoes, all of these things. So it's super easy for me to get those, servings of fruits in. So I just focus on eating fruits. And then with my veggies, again, I'll put that stuff in like sandwiches that I really enjoy. Like I like having sandwiches with some lettuce. Like, it tastes weird if there's no lettuce in there or if there's no spinach. So I'll put, lettuce and spinach in my sandwiches. And again, this makes it effortless for me to follow through with these habits of eating healthy, because this stuff is stuff that I like to eat. I don't have to restrict myself really. I just eat the stuff that I like to eat. With things like kind of exercising, we talked about that as well, is, personalizing that by doing what you like to do. So I love running, so running is a good activity for me. But if you don't like running, brisk walking is great exercise. Swimming is great exercise. You can dance if you want to. All of these things are fantastic options for exercise. I kind of had a problem before where I was very tied to weightlifting. I thought like weightlifting was the only good exercise, and I thought like for eating clean, I had to, eat like lots of protein, eat lots of meat. But then I realized like that doesn't really work. It upset my stomach a lot. I got a lot of injuries from weightlifting because, my body just isn't really built to do a lot of different lifts. So I stopped weightlifting and I started running, and that made it a lot easier to get my, activity in and to, maintain a healthy lifestyle without all of the stress that came from weightlifting for me. So, don't get too attached to like you don't have to weightlift, you don't have to run. Do what works best for you. Personalize it to your needs, to the things that you want to do, and you'll find it much easier to stick to your habits. The next habit we're going to talk about is to make it hard to fail the habit or to make it easy to follow the habit. So a good kind of example of this is, again, eating healthy. Because a lot of people, when they try to, start eating healthy, they'll still get these same exact groceries. They'll have a house full of unhealthy food. And, when you're hungry and you have, a bag of chips that you love to eat waiting for you as soon as you get home, of course you're going to eat the bag of chips. So that is kind of a huge obstacle, is when it's difficult to follow your habit because you have triggers and temptations kind of right in front of you. But let's say that you can't really avoid, things like having junk food in your house because your family members, might not be following the same diet as you. An easy thing you can do, and that I do, is that, when I'm hungry and I want to have something unhealthy, I'll either do one of two things. I'll kind of have food ready by meal prepping earlier in the week. I'll kind of have like alternate foods in my house to satisfy like let's say if I have like a sweet craving, I'll have like protein cookies in my house because I love the way that protein cookies taste. For me personally, I love how they taste, so I'll have those. Or I'll have like a Diet Coke, something small like that that'll kind of kill the craving for me and still satisfy that need, but I won't actually give in and completely eat something super unhealthy, like a Chips Ahoy cookie, or like just have a donut or something like that that'll kind of completely throw me off for that day. And that's kind of the same thing you can do, is make it easy to eat healthy, like cook delicious foods, have things ready, in the fridge prepared so that, it's easy for you to quickly eat healthy food. Like meal prepping really helps with this, like if you find it difficult to get up, to cook, and to make a or recipe, just have food waiting and ready for you already, so that then you can go and just kind of, grab it out of the fridge. And that way it's a lot easier to eat healthy. If you have like unhealthy food in your house and you can't avoid it, put it in like a top shelf away from everything else. And then keep things like apples, bananas, oranges, all like out in the open where they're easy to see. This way, like all of these kind of small things will make it a lot easier to follow your habit. Now, the next and final tip that I have is to track yourself to keep yourself accountable. So a big mistake that a lot of people will make is that when they're kind of trying to start habits, they won't really track what they're doing at all. They'll just kind of randomly do things on certain days when they feel like it, and then on other days they won't. And the problem with this is that in our heads, we always think we're doing a lot better than we actually are. Like whenever I start a habit and I've done it for a couple days, I'll think like, I've hit 10 days already. Oh, I've done it so much already. And then that kind of makes it easier for me to take a day off, because I'm like, oh, okay, I've done it for, what feels like 10 days. So if I take a day off, it isn't a big deal. But then when I actually, like check how often I've been doing the habit, it's like, oh, you've only followed this habit for 4 days right now. You've only done it for 5 days. So tracking your habits gives you a very realistic picture and idea of kind of how often are you doing the habit. And it also lets you analyze kind of how often are you falling off the wagon and why you keep falling off the wagon. You might observe that on weekends it's really hard for you to eat unhealthy because you tend to go out and party with friends, something like that. So a way to kind of mitigate that might be to eat before going out. Or what I did for a while is like when I went out, I only got Diet Coke or something like that. That way, like I still was able to go out and have fun, but I was able to reduce the amount of unhealthy food that I was eating. So these kind of like tracking your habits can help you gain these small little insights into what might make it hard for you to, follow your habit, but it also makes you aware of how often you are following your habit. So, you're not fooled into thinking that you're following your habit more often than you actually are. And again, you can kind of analyze your failures to better understand why you mess things up, what might have led you to fail that habit, and then you can improve from there. So habit tracking is very powerful in that it gets you very good insight into why you might be failing habits, and also helps you to better understand your behaviors so you can correct them, and gives you a great idea of how good are you doing at following these things and how much progress are you making. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope some of these tips can be very helpful to you when it comes to building your own habits. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.